You don't go into nursing for the look of it. You go into nursing for the feel of it.
As a nurse, you're keeping people safe all day.
But it's not easy.
The last 18 months has been something that, no one could have predicted.
There's an element of building resiliency everywhere.
We started off, it was rough, and then we moved forward, and now we're better nurses because of it.
Everyone here has got your back. We are going to lead you through this, and we are going to make you the best nurse that you can be.
One of the main reasons I did decide to join the registry is because the lack of African American representation on the registry. It's our responsibility to register. This is something that we can control. You can do this. Think about if it was your child. Think about if it was your sister. Don't let fear be the only reason that you don't save a life.
Geddes Federal Savings and Loan offers home loans, IRAs, money market, checking, and savings accounts.
Geddes Federal, how can I help you this morning?
Personal service. Get it at Geddes. Offices in Westvale Plaza and in Manlius.
Welcome to the Muhammad Ali virtual screening and discussion event.
Good evening. My name is Mitch Gelman, President and CEO of WCNY. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Muhammad Ali virtual screening and discussion. WCNY is pleased to host this event in celebration of Black History Month with the support of our generous sponsors St. Joseph's Health, Geddes Federal Savings and Loan Association, and the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. We're excited to bring you this film about one of the world's most iconic athletes. Known simply as the greatest, Ali was an Olympic gold medalist who finished his professional career with 56 wins and numerous titles. He defined the sport of boxing with dazzling displays of art and science in the ring. In Zaire, he used his mind as much as his might to triumph over George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle. But Ali was more than a boxer. He boldly predicted rounds in which he would knock out opponents. He turned phrases that became part of our vernacular. He stood for civil rights and against the Vietnam War. Ali agitated and elevated, graded and ingratiated, and became the most recognized person on earth. Tonight's event will feature a panel discussion with local boxing experts. We will watch clips from the documentary followed by a live Q&A session. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy this film on Muhammad Ali.
You want some breakfast?
I want some cornflakes.
Can I have some of your cornflakes? Oh, I don't want none. I won't take none. I won't take none. I won't eat none if you don't want me to. Ooh, look at that pretty horse there. Is that a white horse? See? Now stand up. Look over there. Stand up. You got to stand up over that building. See the big one? There he is.
My earliest memories that I can think of as a child with my father are walking through airports and being in crowds and feeling in the vibrations of people's clapping and shouts in my chest. And just looking at my dad, like, who is this person? And it was all the time, anywhere we went. You're the greatest, we love you, and the clapping, and Muhammad. I loved feeling all the energy and the love that he felt.
We now think of Muhammad Ali as this vulnerable guy lighting the torch in Atlanta, and everybody on the globe loves him. Black people like him, white people. He's a universal hero, but almost in a religious way, like the Buddha. But when he was in the midst of his career, and not just in the early bit, he was incredibly divisive.
Boo, yell, scream, throw peanuts, but whatever you do, pay to get in.
People hated him, whether it was along racial lines, class lines, Vietnam lines, political lines, religious lines, where they just couldn't stand him. And people, of course, had the opposite, and this was, I loved him, loved him. But you had an opinion about him.
What you want? I ain't scared of nobody. It's gonna take a good man to whoop me. You can look at me, I'm loaded with confidence. I can't beat me. I had 180 ounces tonight, 22 sacrifice, and I'm good as a girl.
Look how pretty I am. My long trim legs and my beautiful arms and my pretty nose and mouth. I know I'm a pretty man. I know I'm pretty. You don't have to tell me I'm pretty. I'm cocky, I'm proud.
You never talk about who's gonna stop me. Well, ain't nobody gonna stop me.
I say what I want to say. Ain't no more big talking like this.
He was a pioneer. He was a revolutionary. He was a groundbreaker. A guy known simply as the greatest.
I am the greatest.
I've wrestled with alligators. I've tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning and put thunder in jail. You know I'm bad. I can drown a drink of water and kill a dead tree.
This will be no contest.
Wait till you see Muhammad Ali.
To have that chutzpah and to be a black man in America it was outlandish.
Muhammad means worthy of all praises, and Ali means most high.
And I just don't think I should go 10,000 miles in here and shoot some black people that never caught me. I just can't shoot it.
I always wonder why Miss America was always white. Santa Claus was white. White swan soap, king white soap, white cloud tissue paper, and everything bad was black. Black cat was the bad luck, and if I threaten you, I'm gonna blackmail you. So Mama wanted to call it white male. They lied too.
I love being around him. I love being around Muhammad Ali.
You gonna float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Ah, rumble, young man, rumble. Ah.
The price of freedom comes high. I have paid, but I am free.
Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. The winner and still heavyweight champion of the world. And the greatest fight of all time. Of all time. Hey, I'ma keep on running, cause the winner don't quit on themselves.
He called himself the greatest, and then proved it to the entire world. He was a master at what is called the sweet science, the brutal and sometimes beautiful art of boxing. Heavyweight champion at just 22 years old, he wrote his own rules, in the ring and in his life, infuriating his critics, baffling his opponents, and riveting millions of fans. At the height of the civil rights movement, he joined a separatist religious sect whose leader would, for a time, dominate both his personal life and his boxing career. He spoke his mind and stood on principle even when it cost him his livelihood. He redefined black manhood, yet belittled his greatest rival using the racist language of the Jim Crow South in which he had been raised. Banished for his beliefs, he returned to boxing an underdog, reclaimed his title twice, and became the most famous man on earth. He craved adulation his whole life, seeking crowds on street corners, in hotel lobbies, on airport tarmacs, everywhere he went, and reveled in the uninhibited joy he brought each adoring fan. He earned a massive fortune, spent it freely, and gave generously to family, friends, even strangers, anyone in need. Service to others, he often said, is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Even after his body began to betray him and his brain had absorbed too many blows, he fought on, unable to go without the attention and drama that accompanied each bout. Later, slowed and silenced by a cruel and crippling disease, he found refuge in his faith, becoming a symbol of peace and hope on every continent. Muhammad Ali was, the novelist Norman Mailer wrote, the very spirit of the 20th century.
I'm always gonna be one black one who got big on your white televisions, on your white newspapers, on your satellites, $1 million checks, and still look you in your face and tell you the truth and 100% stay with and represent my people and not leave them and sell them out because I'm rich and stay with them. That was my purpose. I'm here and I'm showing the world that you can be here and still free and stay yourself and get respect from the world.
One day in October of 1954, 12-year-old Cassius rode his bicycle into downtown Louisville, while Rudy sat on the handlebars. It began to rain, and the boys took cover in the Columbia Auditorium, where a home appliance show was underway. After the rain stopped, they emerged to find that the bicycle was gone.
He had a brand new Schwinn, a beautiful red bicycle that he shared with his brother. And he went running around looking for his bicycle and then ran back into the community center asking for help. Someone told him there was a police officer in the basement.
He went down, and the cop in the basement was this Joe Martin, who was running a little boxing school.
Cassius told the story years later that for a minute he forgot about his bike because the sight of this boxing gym, the smell of the leather and the sweat, and the excitement, the action of boys in a ring hitting each other, black and white together.
And he, reported the crime, and I'm going to get the guy, and I'm going to, kill him. Joe Martin said, well, do you know how to fight? Fight. And that was the beginning.
Though his father was reluctant to let his son train with a white police officer, the lessons were free, and Cassius was eager to learn. At first, the young boxer did not impress Martin. He was just ordinary, the trainer recalled, and I doubt whether any scout would have thought much of him.
Cassius didn't show any special talent right away, but he showed enormous passion. He knew instantly that this was what he wanted to do. Boxing was perfect for him because there's just two guys in the ring, and your eye is always going to be drawn naturally to the one who's doing the most moving, who's doing the most punching, who's moving the fastest. And that was him, and he knew that he could get the most attention that way.
Just 6 weeks after he walked into Joe Martin's gym, Cassius Clay had his first amateur fight.
I, at that time, was putting on a local television show here in Louisville, and I had amateur bouts every Saturday afternoon. The first bout I put him in, he weighed 87 pounds.
After defeating 14-year-old Ronnie O'Keefe in a split decision, Clay immediately announced to everyone that one day he would be called the greatest of all time.
He was always been a little braggart. I'm the greatest and all that before he even got to be the greatest. We'd say, oh, shut up, precision run in your mouth. But as he got better and better, we had more respect for him.
In May, Ali began a month-long tour of African countries. In Accra, the capital of Ghana, thousands gathered at the airport to catch a glimpse of the world's new heavyweight champion. Outside his hotel, Ali heard a familiar voice. Brother Muhammad called Malcolm X, who was on his own overseas tour. He greeted Ali enthusiastically. "I still love you," he told the boxer. "You left the Honorable Elijah Muhammad," Ali said. "That was the wrong thing to do." There was little else to say. Malcolm walked away. Ali met with Ghanaian President Kwame Nkrumah, sparred with his brother Rudy, now known as Rahman, before thousands at a local sports stadium, and took every opportunity to engage the admirers who turned up everywhere Ali went. He also spoke out against integration in America, advocating for a separate state for black people, and dismissed the sweeping civil rights bill under consideration in the U.S. Congress as counterfeit money. Later, he visited Nigeria and Egypt, where he and Herbert Muhammad met with President Gamal Abdel Nasser and prayed with 1,500 worshipers at Cairo's Al Hussein Mosque. The deep affection Africans showered on Ali during his 5-week trip showed that his success in the ring and outspokenness beyond it had won him an enormous following, well beyond the United States.
Well, remember that the African continent itself was in the throes of liberation, from colonial status. It was liberation time, and Muhammad Ali was a figure of liberation.
Before leaving Africa, Ali received a cable from his former friend and mentor. Because 1 billion of our people in Africa, Asia, and Arabia love you blindly, you must now be forever aware of your tremendous responsibility to them, Malcolm X wrote. You must never do or say anything that will permit your enemies to distort the beautiful image you have here among our people.
I frankly believe that Cassius is in a better position than anyone else to restore a sense of racial pride to not only our people in this country, but all over the world. And he is trying his best to live a clean life and project a clean image. But despite this, you find the press is constantly trying to paint him as something other than what he actually is. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink. In fact, if he was white, they would be referring to him as the all-American boy.
Ali's next fight had been scheduled for March 29, 1966 in Chicago, against the 6'6" Ernie Terrell, the boxer who had been awarded the World Boxing Association title after they had stripped it from Ali. Most boxing fans still viewed Ali as the real champ, and a defeat of Terrell would cement his claim. I want our soldiers and Marines to see what a real champion looks like, said Terrell, who promised to sign up for an exhibition tour in Vietnam after defeating Ali.
And we announced the fight, and tickets were going very well, and we were securing closed-circuit exhibitors around the country. I had hoped it would be the biggest Ali promotion ever at that point. When Ali said, "I got nothing against the Viet Cong," Mayor Daley immediately contacted the Illinois Athletic Commission and told them to throw us out of Chicago.
To salvage the fight, Ali backed away from his statements and offered to come before the Illinois State Athletic Commission to apologize. But after having breakfast with Elijah Muhammad before the hearing, he reversed course.
I'm asking you if you apologize for the unpatriotic remarks that you made.
Anything, I'm not apologizing for nothing like that because I don't have to. I'm apologizing to the people who in charge of the selective service. Those are the people that we'll take this up with. I'm not in court now for that. I'm a champ of the world. This is athletic commissioner, and I'm here to fight for the title, and I'm just apologizing for what I said to the newspapers and to the press when I should have had these things to say, and they will from now on be said with the people who are in charge of this.
Mr. Clay, when you...
Muhammad Ali, sir.
Mr. Clay...
Muhammad Ali,
or
sir.
Mr. Muhammad Ali, either
Yes, sir.
one.
Just Muhammad Ali.
When
sir.
you appeared before this commission before, if I recall correctly, you said you were the people's champion?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that you're acting like a people's champion?
Yes, sir.
That same day, the Illinois Attorney General declared the fight illegal.
We determined that the application and the license violated state law.
I don't know what kind of statements Clay made. The only thing that I can figure out about Clay is he's guilty of being stupid.
And once we got out of Chicago, every city in the United States virtually did a pylon. And the pylon was, Kalamazoo will not accept the fight. You know, nobody had asked them. But so it became obvious to me that we couldn't do the fight in the United States.
Arum eventually found a venue for the fight in Toronto, Canada. But Terrell rejected the terms of the new contract and pulled out. With less than 3 weeks to go, promoters scrambled to find another opponent. George Chuvalo, the Canadian heavyweight champion, agreed to take Terrell's place.
He's going to fight George Chuvalo in Toronto because that patriotic mayor, Daley of Chicago, has said he can't abide the traitors fighting in his midst. So I go up there and I come to Sully's AC Gym. I go in the back. And Luis Soria, the Cuban exile, is giving him a massage. He said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, somebody said there's a fight." He said, "Nah, you know this is not much of a fight." I said, "Well, I'll tell you the truth. Muhammad, I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of young American men who do not want to fight in this war for reasons of conscience or religion or whatever else are coming to Canada and they've been granted political asylum. So I'm here to see if he got home." He got off that thing so fast and got in my face, I thought he was going to hit me. He said, "You know better than that." He said, "Look," and these are the words, I remember them so well, "America is my birth country. No one's going to chase me out of my birth country. I belong in my birth country. Now, I don't make the laws in my birth country. So if the law says I got to go to jail, I'll go to jail. Elijah did, I will do it, but I'm going home to my birth country," and you could tell that to everybody. I was positive he'd go to jail if he had to.
George Chuvalo lasted all 15 rounds, giving Ali what he called his toughest fight yet. This time, Las Vegas oddsmakers favored Ali.
Here he comes.
At 10:26 p.m. on January 28, 1974, before a sold-out Madison Square Garden, Muhammad Ali entered the ring.
Here comes Joe Frazier, Smoking Joe.
Frazier followed a minute later.
You're looking at the man many consider the most spectacular athlete of all time, Muhammad Ali. Joe Frazier gets a chance to prove tonight what he thought he proved 3 years ago, that he's a better fighter than Muhammad Ali.
Joe's coming off the loss against George Foreman. So that's going to affect the level of the craft. But with Ali and Joe, it was always hugely personal. These guys despise each other. They're foes for life.
In the first round, Ali shuffled and jabbed and kept Frazier from finding his rhythm.
Frazier's coming in wide open, wide open. The question is if Frazier can hold up under this punishment and Ali slows down.
Late in the second, Ali wobbled Frazier with a stiff right to his head.
Ali is dominating the fight.
The difference between this fight and the first fight is that Muhammad is focused on making Joe find him through his movement. When you try to make a guy find you, you can disrupt his rhythm, because if I'm moving, you don't control when I punch. I control when you punch.
Ali keeping Frazier off balance.
As the fight went on, Ali mixed his jabs with hooks and combinations and relied on clinches to stifle Frazier's attack.
Ali doing the holding.
In the first fight, Joe was like a Tasmanian devil. He never stopped punching. And if Ali held him, you could see Joe take his hands and put him down and just kept on punching. When Ali held Joe in the second fight, you never saw Joe react like that. He's cooperating with Muhammad.
Ali is outsmarting Frazier. And Frazier can't afford to give any more rounds away.
Frazier just kept coming, absorbing Ali's punches as he attempted to get under Ali's arms and land his lethal left hook.
What was holding Frazier back was the ghosts of getting knocked out by George Foreman a year prior. Now, when you're a heavyweight champion and you go to Jamaica and you end up getting knocked out by this guy, that makes you plummet. That's something you never forget. So this Joe Frazier and the one from 71, two different people. If you're Joe Frazier, every time you get hit, like a solid shot, you think about the last time you got knocked out.
Ali opening fast.
In rounds 7 and 8, Frazier broke through, tagging Ali with several devastating punches, including one that sent Ali to the ropes as the bell rang to signal the end of the 8th.
Ali's face is getting puffy.
That's by far the best round for Joe Frazier.
Frazier is so confident at this point.
In the 9th, his face swollen from Frazier's blows and his nose trickling blood, Ali connected with 10 punches for every one landed by Frazier, inspiring chants of Ali from the electrified crowd.
This is as good as the last fight. Plenty of excitement at old Madison Square Garden. This is the last round. There's no tomorrow, only tonight. The bout could end in a draw.
"You gotta stop him to win," Dundee shouted at Ali as Frazier chased after him, desperately launching left hooks.
Tremendous left hook. Frazier's teeing off. Now Frazier is getting careless. They're putting everything into this. Now it's a battle for survival. What a finish!
It's all over, and judges have their work cut out for them.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Here is your decision. The winner by unanimous decision is Muhammad Ali.
In 1996, the Olympic Committee, planning the Summer Games in Atlanta, asked Muhammad Ali to light the torch at the opening ceremonies. At first, Ali declined. He didn't want to be seen shaking and stumbling on that stage. But his friend Howard Bingham convinced him, "This is the thing where the world is saying, thank you for all that you've done over your life," Bingham told him. "There will be 3 billion people watching." The plans were kept secret.
Do you recognize her? Janet Evans.
Considered the greatest female distance swimmer of all time.
And it was planned very brilliantly. I mean, people really thought the swimmer, Janet Evans, was going to be the person who was going to light that torch. But instead, out of nowhere comes Muhammad Ali.
I'll take the long road.
You hadn't really seen him in a while. You knew he was sick, and when you would see him, he was clearly showing the effects of the illness, but he hadn't been seen that much, and then here he is in this big prominent moment. And he's holding that torch and he's shaking. And man, I'm about to cry now. It was hard to watch because you don't want to see your guy like that. You don't want to see that. But you saw it.
He was defenseless. Now, he can't hurt us anymore. You know, he can't make us mad anymore. Because now the game that we ask him to play to entertain us has left him looking like this. Now we feel some sympathy, if not guilt. We see him shaking, trembling up there. The most beautiful moving, most beautiful athlete in motion you've ever seen. And now he can't hold the torch. You know, so we feel guilt and we feel sympathy. We want to hug him. We want to embrace him. We want to ask his forgiveness. You know, everything, for every reason that we disliked him, now we love him. You know, because he was right.
It was striking to see this evolution, not in Ali, but in us. It just struck me so amazingly to watch Ali riding this torch, people weeping. It's amazing. And you cast back not so many years before, and some huge amount of the country thought this guy was the Antichrist, where they chose to hate him, where they made him a foil to the other guy that they liked better. And it's entirely possible that human beings are capable of learning something.
I'll take the long road. Yeah, yeah.
The outpouring of love caught Ali by surprise. Parkinson's robs you of confidence, Lonnie told a reporter. Now he knows the public will love him and accept him, no matter what he has.
Welcome to tonight's Muhammad Ali live panel discussion. I'm Rubin Wright, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's discussion. Two notable boxing experts are joining me tonight to talk about Muhammad Ali and his career. Our guests are Srdan Lukic, founder and executive director of Fights for Hearts, and a retired international boxer, and Curtis Chaplin, owner of Option Zero and a competitive boxer. Now let's jump right into some questions for our panelists. So first, I want to jump into both of you, kind of just give the audience a brief background on how you guys got into boxing. First, Srdan, let's start with you.
So my journey into boxing was just to get healthy. I started gaining weight, had some health problems growing up, so boxing was there for fitness purposes only, nothing else. And then slowly my love for the sport grew. I had a little bit of talent. I was working really hard, and next thing you know, you're competing, and the rest is history.
And Curtis, how did you get into boxing?
Believe it or not, boxing was my way to stay in shape in between sports while in high school. I actually went to the same gym while Serge was training and looked up to him as well as many others in the gym. And it wasn't until I was in my early to late, I say late 20s, early 30s that I started to take boxing serious. And ever since then, I've just been, all in. I've been teaching. Now I'm a coach and trying to work towards getting back in the ring, but it's tough with teaching and fighting. So we'll see.
Absolutely. And we just saw a wonderful documentary and excerpt of Muhammad Ali, and let's jump into some questions about him. So why do you both feel Ali was so successful in his boxing career? Was it him as his mental toughness? Was it his physical conditioning? We'll start with you, Srdan.
I mean, it's just everything all together. As far as boxing, he was doing things that weren't done at that time. He could box like a lightweight in a heavyweight division. He could move. He could fight going backwards, which is really hard. Even in these clips, you could see how many punches he's putting together versus, the opponent where they're really trying to land one big shot. Ali is really setting it up. He's got the footwork. So just the overall boxing skill. And going back to the amateur days, he's a gold medal winner. And what a lot of people don't know, going through the Olympics, he was winning 5-0. So there's 5 judges scoring the bouts. So he was getting all of it was a unanimous win against top boxers in the world. So, and amateur boxing is really where you show the skills. So he was very, very, very skilled as far as boxing. He had the right mental toughness, probably one of the toughest fighters mentally, and you can see that towards the end of his career. His coaches couldn't talk him out of fighting. If he put his mind to something, he was going to do it. So it was no talking him out. So it's a combination of everything. He was just the ultimate boxer. That's why he is the greatest.
And Curtis, I pose the same question to you. Do you think it was
I also agree. Muhammad Ali had one of the greatest careers, and even as an amateur, I believe he had around 180 bouts, maybe more. But for him to be at that level that early was amazing. So you take what he did in the ring, and then all the mental toughness that he had to endure with being a black man at that time. I think that really is what gave him that edge. During that time, there was a lot of Jim Crow going on, and to be able to train and stay focused during that, once you get in the ring, what else is there to fear? So I think that combined with his athleticism is what really gave him the edge.
Both of you are involved in boxing, but also your purpose is to serve the community. Ali was very notable for inspiring and taking a stand against injustices around the world. Why do you think boxing is the perfect stage for the community, for community service, as well as taking a stand in community actions? I'll go to you, Srdan.
Okay. I think boxing has so many parallels with everything from business to just battling and like going through things in life. You can find parallels in boxing. It shows you who you are, your true character when you get in that ring. There's no one to hide behind. There's no, filters to go behind. There's no social media. Whoever you are, that shows in the ring, and you can't fake it. And that's really what it is. So boxing is one of those sports that really works well with youth, not only from the competitive standpoint, but just training for boxing is really hard. Just going through a workout, if any of the viewers have been through it, an actual boxing workout is really hard, and it's one of the toughest sports to train for. So I think that's really kind of in a nutshell what boxing is, and it really can be applied for a lot of different things. And my purpose is to apply it for health, right? And it's like an ultimate sport that you can apply for many different messages.
And Curtis, what about you? When you, of course, involved in Option Zero and very oriented towards the community, what do you see the parallels in boxing that allow you to kind of have that community service aspect?
Well, to be quite frankly, I believe that everything that we're doing, Option Zero is a holistic youth facility. We're educating the young men and women physically, mentally, and emotionally. In the ring, you're going to be in the uncomfortable situations. In life, you're going to be in the uncomfortable situations. Boxing is a way to tie those uncomfortable situations and help you to, push through, to persevere. As well as boxing, you're a fighter at the end of the day. You're fighting for the community when you're an activist. You're fighting for the gym when you're in the ring. You're fighting for your family. Rather, whoever you are fighting for is an act of fighting, which is also a warrior mentality. So I think that is one of the reasons why they're very compatible when, dealing with both, when we're talking about the sport of boxing and activism. For our community right now, a lot of the athletes hold a lot of weight with the things that they say, the way they dress, the way they move, especially with the social media era. And now that we're learning to, utilize the social media, you can see a lot of the trends that the athletes are, gravitating towards now into our communities. Back then, there wasn't any social media, so the athletes still held that weight, but they had to speak up. They had to do activism. They had to do a lot of protesting and things to get attention in a way. Well, now we have something in the palm of our hands that can do it all.
And kind of sticking with that question, and I'm gonna stick with you, Curtis. Ali lost 4 of his prime years due to his objection to the Vietnam War, and really it kind of defined his legacy. Many people criticized him for it, and it really, a lot of people in the boxing world also say that he lost 4 years where he could have garnered more titles, more recognition. Do you think taking a stand against the Vietnam War hurt or helped his legacy today?
Honestly, I don't think it did either. amazing record. 6-5, that's a lot. Add 4 years, that's an extra 12 bouts. Let's say it's an extra 12 bouts. So he would have probably been closer to 70, 80 bouts and, 5 losses. That's not bad. However, the things that he endured, the sacrifices that he went through is what we needed at that time. It showed that someone can sacrifice, and still push. Someone can persevere, those times that he was away from his sport, his craft, everything that he lived to build on his own, and he didn't break. So coming out of that is what I think cemented his legacy. Because anyone could have, did the time and then said, you know what, I'm done with boxing, I'm just going to give it up. But he came back and he still was able to make an impact and challenge a lot of the greats that were still there for his title.
And Srdan, I want to stick with that question for you as well. I think it's a major thing. Do you think it hurt his legacy taking a stand?
Absolutely not. Curtis put it really well. So only thing that could have helped him if he fought through those 4 prime years, maybe he wouldn't be fighting so late in his career. But you never know. That's the only thing that I could argue on the other end. But him having such a strong stand and not being wishy-washy and believing in something so strong, the injustice and standing firm, that's really what speaks volumes. And a lot of people in today's society, don't have that. It's just a lot of wishy-washiness here and there. So I think what he did in his life. I mean, how many people would not only stop their career, which is being the most famous person in the world, and actually go to jail for what they believe in. It's really not allowed when you put it like that on paper. But he believed in something and he stood by it, and I think that definitely helped him, helped his legacy today, while it hurt his legacy at that time.
Both of you are actively involved in the professional, boxing scene, but also I'm sure that both of you know the MMA scene as well. One of the main things in our society right now is kind of the rise of the UFC and MMA, and kind of one thing is this parallel between boxing versus MMA. Really, that's kind of the question. And I think the one thing that I want to ask both of you and kind of get your opinion is the MMA turned fighting or MMA boxers entering the boxing ring. That's kind of the trend, the growing trend. We've seen it whether it be celebrities or whether it be someone that is just coming from the MMA world to kind of fight Floyd Mayweather and things like that. Do you guys think that's a real thing, and do you think it helps or hurts the boxing world right now? I'll start with you, Srdan.
So the bottom line is it's prize fighting. So if the people are willing to pay for it, matches will get made. So that's really what it comes down to. So I don't think it hurts the actual boxing, because it's really not boxing, it's exhibitions. A lot of great fighters, Sugar Ray Robinson used to do exhibition fights. He used to travel the world and just, take exhibition fights after his career. A lot of boxers do it. It's just that right now we have the social media to amplify it. So it doesn't hurt boxing. The real boxing fans know what the real matches are, and those still get views. If you look at the pay-per-view numbers or however many people tune in, it's really not hurting the sport. And UFC, it's a complete different thing. They have their own audience. Obviously, there's some crossover. There's fans of both. I like watching both. And I think it's all. The market is just getting further segmented, and that's really what's happening. So I don't think it's hurting boxing at all. But there are other things which we can get into what are hurting boxing, but we can continue on with this question.
I agree with Srdan. It's a business. At the end of the day, your job is to sell tickets, put people in the seats, and that's what it's doing. Do I think that boxing has died? No, it has fell off a bit. It was one of the top sports at one point in time that people were watching, but that it was before we ran into the technology that we have. Now we can watch everything. We can do almost anything. Now for MMA fighters getting into boxing, we're always going to have the MMA versus boxing, who's better, who's this. At the end of the day, hopefully one day we can see a pure boxer go in with a pure MMA fighter. However, anyone can feel any type of way about this. I feel that the MMA fighter is going into a world where he's not as skilled. MMA, it's so many different styles and so many different techniques and things that you're mastering. With boxing, just mastering these certain punches, these certain skills that are on our hand. You don't have to worry about anything else. So it gives them the slighter edge. With, the world we're living in now, at the end of the day, whatever is the social media hype, what's going to get you the likes and hearts, that's where the money's at. So I agree. The fans do know, and just take it every day, one at a time. I guess I don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
Well, I want to get one quick question here. So if you guys can just give a quick response before we run out of time here. But I think this is a really important question. As we've seen in football and to a lesser extent other contact sports, do parents and general public discourage youth boxing due to the potential for brain injuries and CTE? I'll start with you, Srdan.
So now in the last, I'd say 10 years, there's a lot more data on CTE and brain damage, and it's well documented. James Stoney is one of the greatest, one of the Hall of Famers, right? And he sustained so many blows through sparring that his pituitary gland has been affected, and his testosterone production is of a 70-year-old while he was in his 30s. So things like that happen from head injury. And now we know a lot more. I think smart coaches that are not with this old school, really going with the old school, nothing but sparring. Now coaches are more educated and they limit the rounds of sparring. UFC guys are even further along than that, and they almost don't spar at all because they just get their timing down, and if you know how to fight, you know how to fight. So there is an adjustment in the sport. Obviously, brain head trauma is a thing. Every punch is a slight concussion, and for the kids, to go to your question, kids are well protected in the sport of boxing. Their rounds are adjusted to 1 minute length, and they have the heavier glove or the larger gloves to have more cushion. And youth is protected as far as how it's officiated as well. The bouts are stopped if anything gets out of control. You get standing 8 counts, which in professional boxing doesn't happen. So the overall sport is, I don't think there is danger of that, but I think from the professional level where you do get paid to knock out, and blood is something that earns the dollars, there is more danger, absolutely.
Curtis, I'll give you 30 seconds.
So I agree with Serge. The only thing I will say is, as a coach, which is something that I do, our goal is to be educated and teach more drills. Yes, boxing is a dangerous sport, but every sport is a dangerous sport if it's taught the wrong way. With technology the way it is, there's going to be so many different things that we can do to limit the injuries, but things will happen. And as long as the coaches and the students are giving 100% and getting all that extra training, I think we can keep it to a minute.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for tonight's panel discussion. We hope you enjoyed this event surrounding the career and life of Muhammad Ali. And I want to thank Srdan and Curtis for joining me this evening and giving us some valuable insights and knowledge. And I'd also like to thank everyone for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
You don't go into nursing for the look of it. You go into nursing for the feel of it.
As a nurse, you're keeping people safe all day.
But it's not easy.
The last 18 months has been something that, no one could have predicted.
There's an element of building resiliency everywhere. We started off, it was rough, and then we moved forward, and now we're better nurses because of it.
Everyone here's got your back. We are gonna lead you through this, and we are gonna make you the best nurse that you can be.
One of the main reasons I did decide to join the registry is because the lack of African American representation on the registry. It's our responsibility to register. This is something that we can control. You can do this. Think about if it was your child. Think about if it was your sister. Don't let fear be the only reason that you don't save a life.
Geddes Federal Savings and Loan offers home loans, IRAs, money market, checking, and savings accounts.
Geddes Federal, how can I help you this morning?
Personal service. Get it at Geddes. Offices in Westvale Plaza and in Manlius.
Thank you for joining us tonight.